Good evening, maybe morning? Shit, it could even be afternoon. It's hard to tell from down here in Hivers. We are 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio, broadcasting Vox-wide, live from deep in the long-forgotten vaults lost somewhere in the sump. Last night's Hivequakes revealed another fissure deep into the abandoned and lost tangle of ancient pre-Imperium dungeons of Innsmouth. Will we find a trove of wonders, or is this our last broadcast? Maybe our doom is sealed and right around the next corner.
Oh no, man, we lost. We lost.
Did you guys hear that?
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Why are you touching me?
What was that? What was that? I am your Vox Master for this excursion into the unknown, the ever unhinged Plasma Guru Goblin King, carrying enough firepower to put down any overeager four-armed emperors, or maybe the Brood Witch, if we end up coming across her down here, is our expedition's weapons expert, Beast.
Hello, everyone.
And ever in the know, and how we got this melt-a-hot tip is Kevin, getting us in first and farther this time than any other team. Kev, how do you find these? What was that?
That was nothing.
The wind.
Was it behind? Is it behind me?
If we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist.
Perfect. So how do you find these fantastic tips?
Well, you know, sometimes when you're in the bar, people talk too much and too loud. And they talk about where they might want to go treasure hunting, except also when you drink too much or drink so much that you talk too much and too loud. You don't wake up very early, so, you know, it's easy to beat them there.
Got you.
It's also really easy to beat them there when you shoot them in the head.
I was going to say, are you palming them obscura? But, you know, either way.
You know.
Just give him an old blast to the face. It's like
Blam.
Bless.
Bless.
As we prep to jump into Gene Stealer cults over the next course of our next lore series, we wanted to take a quick breather to look at some of the concepts of what might be one of the most truly alien races in the Warhammer 40k setting. As we talked about not long ago when we covered the concepts of flora and fauna in creative writing, as humans, we have a tendency to look at what we know when we make up fantastical races. The classic D&D races like dwarves, elves, hobbits, gnomes, and giants are all very easy to compare when we look at our basic bipedal template. And honestly, even lizard folk, dragonborn, goblins, orcs, and the rarer races like the Tengu are basically still human templates. You just have slight additions. You know, lizard folk have scales, Tengu are covered in feathers. It's kind of that Star Trek original series syndrome. You know, we need an alien race, paint an actress green, and then Captain Kirk can try to sleep with her for the entire episode.
Hey.
Or Riker.
It's a legitimate strategy.
Yeah, your enemy doesn't want to fight if you just fuck them into submission. Fact.
I can say that about a lot of things in my life.
In a lot of ways, it's a very helpful way of looking at everything, especially since as creative writers and as humans, generally we look at the fact that 2 legs, 2 arms, a head, and the frame that we have is, you know, it's a good place to start, you know? But as Kev mentioned in episodes past, a lot of the groundwork for 40K came out of role-playing systems that the early Games Workshop had developed for use in various existing fantasy worlds. And while now those races in 40K may have gone through quite a couple revisions and tweaks, not really ever being retconned, just explained more, their earliest introductions were pretty simplistic. Eldar were space elves, squats were space dwarves. Pretty much everything could be traced to a Tolkien-esque role-playing race pretty fast.
Hold up, you forgot that humans are humans.
That's true, humans. Shit. The lingering effect of this, oddly enough, is that metahumans encountered by the Imperium in large enough populations are still pretty much classified as just being the space equivalent of everything. Like the squats of Necromunda, ratlings, and Oghren that are pretty much seen all over the 40k universe, not just Necromunda, can still have lots of connections and lines drawn to dwarfs, ogres, and hobbits. We don't really know enough about the Demiurge that the Tau interact with yet, or whether or not they actually are the Leagues of Votann or the newly coming Leagues of Votann, to really kind of make a guess at where they're going as far as alien race development goes. So
I thought they released that they were. Well, they're not Leagues of Votann, but they're the same. They are. They're the same.
They're the
They
same,
are
but like splintered or
same
whatever.
ancestors. The Leagues of Votann left on a long time ago on like a exploration mining
They're
trip.
like, their own like kind of crusade, right?
Yeah.
They seem
I
to
think
be.
the Demiurge are the offshoot.
You think the Demiurge?
The Demiurge are probably the ones that kind of stayed.
I wouldn't
Sort of
be
like
surprised.
Exodites, you know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the squats of Necromunda are their own thing. The Demiurge that the Tau deal with are their own thing, and the League of Votann are their own thing. It'd be interesting.
But they all share like common ancestry.
Right.
Like, that's what I think. I think the squats in Necromunda are actual squats. They're what we know as squats. The Leagues of Votann are their own thing. They're like a clone army or whatever. Demiurge are an offshoot. They're like the remnants of the squats that are still spacefaring.
I like that. It'll be dope to see how it develops. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah. I'm interested to see where they go. There's a lot of stuff with Tau that I like about auxiliaries and such. In fact, that's what we're going to talk about today is one of them.
Oh yeah. So in opposition to everything I just brought up are the Tyranids. They really are, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty easy to say, the standout really alien of the playable 40k factions. While they have potential links to the insects and arthropods that we know in modern science, they do stand out as completely alien when it comes to the sort of standard, looks human enough that Captain Kirk will attempt to sleep with it definition that most of the other races that we mentioned kind of fit. I mean, Captain Kirk would try to sleep with an Eldar, right?
I mean, I would. A dark Eldar, not a regular Eldar.
Yeah, the Tyranids are the most extremely removed from bipedal humanoids that the 40k universe offers as a large playable faction, right?
Okay. Yes. I would say one physically, not what we perceive to be alien, but physically, yes. As a playable faction, yes. That's that 100%. Not in the whole like world of 40k, but as a playable faction, 100%.
Weirder. Yeah, there's definitely weirder one-offs.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I was like, absolutely not, in like the whole thing. But yes, as a playable faction, 100%.
Definitely. And I mean, if you take them away, and they're cousins of gene stealery nature.
Well,
then like, what are you left with? The closest thing to alien is then orcs.
Yeah,
you know, with like squigs and stuff.
Well, I mean,
and even those are still bipedal, and you know, it's fairly standard. It takes going all the way to Tyranids for it to deviate from a two-legged base.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the biggest severance I have is that they're not a alien idea. They're a hive mind. They're you know what I mean? Like they operate like what we know as ants. You know, they have a queen, they have workers, they have soldiers, you know, things like that. That to me is not an alien idea.
Right. It's still based in something terrestrial. It's just
that's what I was getting at. As far as playable factions, physically alien, all of that stuff, 100% totally agree. As far as the idea of what they are, not alien.
Yeah. Although, if you look at it from a certain perspective, you know, whether it's the invasive nature of gene stealer cults themselves, not to mention the most mature being essentially 6-armed xenomorphs. And we'll get into the lower generations of gene stealers, which pretty much look human. Or as Tom just brought up, you know, at a certain point, you know, look at the 1950s films where everything that was out there was giant ants or giant spiders attack the town because you could just put the camera closer to the insect and make it look bigger. But the whole idea of the alien race, even when you look at it as being a terrestrial hive mind, it's really alien as far as, when you compare it to the way that our human minds work. We don't think that way. We, humans, and when we write stories, and this is really easy to personify in the other factions of 40K, everything becomes the glory of that quick, close quarter combat between my Archon and your chapter master, or between my Chaos Legionnaire and a couple of guardsmen that are really just trying to hold that point. Everything comes that like glory, that moment of will they, won't they. The Tyranids don't think like that. The Tyranids aren't out for independent glory. There's no traditional sense of self. They're a hive mind. Even the synapse bioforms, which we'll talk about in the future, they're ultimately just part of that hive mind. They're really just there to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly...
Actually, they don't even eat.
Yeah.
None of the Tyranids eat.
Right,
They're not expected to live long enough to eat. They're created, birthed, or the gestated, birthed, sent out to fight, and expected to either die or win.
Yep.
Before they would starve to death.
And there are other bioforms that are released after they've taken a planet that start to collect and digest everything. And the way that they collect and digest that stuff is by throwing themselves into digestive pools. So they're not even necessarily...
Return my children.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably like the last part to bring up before we jump into the meat of the episode itself, is that Tyranids are really like nothing else encountered in the 40K version of the Milky Way material galaxy. Again, the exception being that there are things in the warp that are just as odd or even more odd in other ways. In general, we probably should have laid this out when we started the podcast itself, but when it comes to 40K, the one golden rule is things be how they be, except for warp fuckery, and then all bets are off.
Yeah. Everything's how it is, unless you talk about the warp, then nothing's how it is. Everything just gets fucked.
Everything's how it is, unless it's Ultramarines.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Ultramarines be how they be.
Yeah. Unless they're not.
And in fact, that's something to bring up with the Tyranids. The Tyranids aren't even in the 40K universe, aren't even from the Milky Way galaxy. They're coming into it from the great void of unknown space. While most of the Milky Way is pretty divided up by all the races that we know and love, it's also full of a lot of small unknowns. And tonight we're going to focus on the unknowns both in the Milky Way galaxy and the unknowns of fringe space, the bleeding edge of the pioneered and cataloged space, at least in the eyes of the Imperium. Because as we bring up some of our examples, the Imperium doesn't think that this stuff exists, but obviously that fringe race that exists just outside of catalog space, they've got their own interpretation. They view things through their eye. Places like the Ghoul Stars, Lucky Space, Halo Stars, the drift stars of the Jericho Reach, and the Eastern Fringe, where the Tau come from. Places where a creative writer can go nuts designing our own kind of crazy alien concepts. I personally think that Lucky Space is a fucking awesome concept. Part of it is that I read about it recently because I'm rereading all the Dan Abnett stuff. But the whole idea that Lucky Space is called Lucky Space, not because you might get lucky and find something there, but you're lucky if you live past 5 minutes, is fucking awesome. You're a rogue trader and you've been here for more than 5 minutes? Must be lucky.
I've actually never really dived too deep into it.
There's some cool stuff. I really like, if you look at the map of the 40K universe, along the outside, there's all of these little areas. Lucky Space is one of them.
And they're just like the region of this, something nebula. But it turns out when you like look in, they all have their own lore bits, like the Ghoul Stars, which are a terrible, terrible place that even the Tyranids were like, we could. we don't fuck.
Yeah. We don't fuck.
Or the Halo Stars are another area. The Drift Stars. Honestly, all of the Reach. I realize that Jericho Reach has a lot of lore in it, and there's a lot of Death Watch specific stuff in it, but the reason that Jericho Reach really exists is all the reaches, pretty much if it's called a reach, the something reach in the 40k universe, it's usually the last bastion of Imperial control before Fringe Space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jericho Reach is one of my favorite places. I've always been kind of obsessed with the stuff that happens at Jericho Reach.
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons I love Rogue Traders, though. It's all
yeah,
the same stuff.
Because that's what they do. They go out, and that's the thing from a creative writing perspective, as Tom brought up just a couple of episodes ago. That's the sort of stuff that you can really play with if you want to create cool aliens. If you want to create cool, not flora, fauna. If you want to really get into like weird fauna, you start playing with areas that have no connection to any Imperial story yet. I mean, it's just as easy to pick a planet a couple of 100 light years away from Terra and say, oh yeah, this is something that's there. You can totally do that. It becomes a little bit more difficult when you try to like make an entire established kingdom or empire of aliens. And that's one of the reasons, the Tau came out of the Eastern Fringes, and the Necron in a lot of ways are waking up in fringe areas, including the Eastern Fringe, is because that's just areas that like
where they're left.
Yeah. And as you brought up not too long ago, the Ultramarines don't really know what's there either. And now there's all of a sudden kind of on the fringe of their empire, this alien shit.
Mm-hmm.
So to kick us off on this grand experiment, to get us ready, to get everybody kind of in the mood for Gene Stealer cults, we've each picked an alien from pop or science fiction culture and one from the Warhammer 40k universe itself that we wanted to talk about. And these are kind of the examples that stand out in our mind. So to kick us off, Beast, 40k alien first, or you want to do your outside universe alien first? Or do you want me to
I'll do
Kev go first?
Why don't we do, are we doing both? Like, am I doing both, or
no, let's
go.
Let's
do
40K
one
first.
and then we'll circle back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll do the 40k first then.
Okay, cool.
40k first. Absolutely my favorite alien race, which is really, really weird that I like it. And I'm not going with one of the well, it's sort of playable. It's not its own faction. I actually really dove deep into what the Vespids were.
Okay.
And the Vespids, right? The Vespids, if you don't know, are actually a mercenary, well, not mercenary faction, but they're a greater good faction brought in. It's an auxiliary for the Tau Empire.
Right.
Their story is kind of fucked. Like,
has a lot of shit with the Tau.
Dude, it's pretty fucked. Like, I feel bad for them. So the Vespid is basically a flying insectoid creature. It's got wings. It's got, obviously hands and feet, but it's straight up an insect. I don't know if, I'm sure Ryan will bring up a picture at some point of what these things are. But basically, like, they are from a gas giant, which, they're not on, there's no surface to the gas giant, but in the upper atmosphere, there are floating land masses, sort of like Pandora.
That's cool.
From Avatar. And so these big floating land masses are so big and they float. That's actually one of my favorite pictures of them, by the way.
It's a pretty damn cool picture.
It's howlingly scary. But yeah, so they live on these like boulders, essentially, these like floating mountains. And there's a lot of talk about how they were created by the old ones to fight Necrons, which makes sense because that's what the old ones did. They created a bunch of fucking races to fight Necrons, or Necrontyr, I should say. But so they're these insectoid race. They have 3 sets of eyes. So they've got 6 eyeballs. Each one views, well, each pair views in a different spectrum. So they can actually see in infrared, they can see in thermal, and they can see, or infrared, ultraviolet, and in somewhat of a regular complexity, So I thought that was freaking sick. Like, they just have straight up like 6 eyeballs. They have 3 pairs of eyes. And what they do is they lived on these floating land masses and would burrow into them. And inside of these land masses are diamond deposit, or crystal deposits. And they figured out, the Vespids on their own figured out that these crystals react to them on the frequency in which they move their wings, right? So their wings like micro vibrate and they resonate with these crystals, and they use them as like a technology, like as lights. It's sort of like you would use like a computer.
Okay.
But they weren't able for space travel. So they're stuck on this gas giant. But that's the craziest thing, right? Is like they're so perfectly tuned to where they are, and they don't have space travel. Like they just happen to find these crystals that resonate to the frequencies of their wings, and they had the diamond strength like claws to dig through the earth or these rocky land masses they live on. So like it's all about the old ones. Like there's so much talk about like how these things are just straight up created by the old ones because they're designed.
They're like a living weapon or whatever.
Yeah, well, they're very, very good at killing armored infantry.
Oh, that's crazy. Is that their,
yeah, like that's
what their ships look like?
Yeah, late after working with the Tau, yes. The Tau helped them develop space travel. But that was the whole thing, right? So like their whole thing is like they're basically modeled after like a wasp or a bee, and their wings technically aren't big enough for them to fly, but they do because they have like gas sacs inside of them. So they're able to fly in like any atmosphere, and the shaking of their wings is how they're known to be like the most alien race. Like that's what they talk about them, because like they don't even view things right. Like they viewed the Tau when they first landed there as like inferior to them, and they don't react in ways that like any life ever has. Like there's not necessarily like a survival instinct for them. They just cooperatively operate, and the whole like reason they joined the Tau Empire is basically because the Tau were like, oh, you don't communicate, like you don't speak, you don't have a language, you make noise, you make smells, and you vibrate, like you shake things. that's how they communicate. They communicate through like gesture and like posture and smell.
That's like
smell
how
is
we
like
do.
Yeah, and smell is like a big thing on how they communicate. So the Tau were like, cool, we're gonna make this mask that pumps pheromones into them. We're going to stick it on like their leadership ones, and we're going to tell them what to do and like be like, hey, greater good, join. And effectively that's what they did. Like the strain leaders, I believe they're called, wear this mask, this like helm of control that allows them to communicate with the Tau. And basically it like pumps them full of like feel good pheromones that they're like, we love doing this. So they're super loyal. Like they will do anything Tau tell them to do. And the Tau originally wanted them for these crystals because they were like, hey, we could use these crystals. But they were like, oh, they're useless to us because we can't resonate their frequency. Like we can't. So they were like, okay, cool. Well, we'll help them build weapons to operate with these crystals. You know what I mean? So that's like how they helped the Vespid like grow into technology further, and they have these like neutron blasters, which are these guns utilized, and they don't have like it's weird how they operate. Like they basically vibrate their wings, the crystal gets ready, and then they have a release, and that's how they fire it.
Oh, that's crazy. So like they're storing the energy and then they're triggering it rather than like shooting,
like they
essentially.
Yeah, like their wings like flap, like they're almost like a hummingbird, but they also will just shake, and that's how they like charge the weapon because it resonates on like a frequency that they're in tune with. And so any crystal, that's how they operate their crystals. So like they use these crystals, kind of like if you can imagine like Superman's lair, like he's just got like a shit ton of crystals everywhere.
Right.
Like it's like the same type of thing. That's what they use, to like operate their shit. And like the funniest thing is like the ones that you see that are the models and the ones that fight are the small ones. The largest group of them are the females, and the females are the only ones that can like dig down into the rock to find the crystals. Because they're so big. Because I guess like the pressure is crazy going deep into the rocks that they are like floating on this gas giant.
Gotcha.
So the females are the only one who can do that.
I knew
they're like huge. Yes,
I knew there was a picture of the rocks. I'm like, I know I've seen it before.
Yeah, so that's basically like the females are the only ones that can get the rocks, like the crystals, and the Vespids, like the rest of them, are the like soldiers. Like they're smaller, but they're the ones that do all the fighting.
Got you.
So it's crazy, dude. Like diving into them, I was like, holy shit, there's a lot here. Like the fact that they don't talk, like they have no like vocal recognition at all. They just like make weird guttural noises and clicks and like they make noise. And there was like the neutron guns that they use are just basically heat and radiation. So like they melt armor and radiate you to death. Like that's like in an instant. That's basically how these things work. They like there was a Space Marine chapter that was talking about how they were being attacked by these things, and they were like, oh, we were like set up, and they're used as like jump troops, like reconnaissance, because they have so many different like visual spectrums they can see.
Right.
That basically like the Space Marines were like, yeah, we were sitting there, and then all of a sudden we heard this like droning buzz, and then the next thing we knew, people were dropping like with radiation like spilling out of them as they were melting inside of their suits, like, and the vehicles were just exploding because of the heat that was being transferred from their guns.
That's terrifying.
And the trees around them, like the round where they were dying. The trees were just instantly crumbling because of the radiation that these things were like shooting.
So
you know,
their wings don't like necessarily let them fly, but they let them like glide or like parachute.
It more or less like guides them. Like they use it as like a steering mechanism, because the way that they fly is actually inside of them. Like it's a pressure thing inside of their bodies that allows them to like float essentially, and the wings are how they like maneuver, because
so it's like,
the wings are not big enough.
Okay.
The wings are not big enough to sustain flight. And I mean, it's all, 40k mumbo jumbo. They got that from bees. They were like, their wings don't have enough to make them fly. And it's like, okay, this was when they were created. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that was like their whole thing, is like when they were being studied by the like what they know of like insects and stuff, by like the, what are they called? The, Mechanican.
Magos biologists.
Yeah, the Magos.
Magos biologists. Yep.
Yes. They were like, we can't figure out this species. Like, it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be able to fly. Why does it fly?
Huh. That's cool though. I like that. I like the idea that it's more like a bladder, like a submarine, and it changes the pressure, and then they can like kind of move up and move down in their own atmosphere, and then they just use their wings to kind of move around. But then because they do have wings, if you drop them, they should be able to like, chicken fly at the very least. They're not going to die from hitting the ground.
Gravity affects them differently because of their like chitin makeup. Like they're made up of chitin. Gravity affects them differently. So they're supposed to be like lightning fast. Like they're super quick at how they move, like especially through the air. And just the fact that like the strain leader, the one with the helmet, is like addicted to wearing the helmet. And they're like super cooperative, like because they're not a hive mind, which a lot of people think that they are, but they're not actually a hive mind. They just operate, like ladybugs. Like ladybugs don't ever fight each other. They just operate, and like, ladybugs has even been like seen like farming, aphids for each other.
Right.
And that's just they just work. They work together. You know what I mean? Like they don't try to fight, but they're hyper aggressive towards anything that isn't them. So when the Tau like first landed, like they were just like, oh, what are you? Doesn't matter. And they just started killing them, so they basically captured them, tortured them, experimented on them until they figured out how they worked. And then they were like, oh, okay, we could utilize this.
They looked super cool when they came out, I always wanted to see more done with them. I wanted to see the either the plastic range, or not the plastic, they were metal. Either see the range, the model range expanded, or to see them developed a little bit more. So hopefully, I mean, who knows with what's happening in the future, but I'd love to see that. I don't know how you are as far as that goes.
Oh yeah, 100%. I liked them more than Kroot. When I first started learning about them, they're supposed to be as like combat effective as Kroot, like melee wise. They're actually supposed to be like pretty fearsome in melee. Like their talons, like their claws are supposed to be able to like rip through armor. And the fact that they like fly and they can like shriek, they can make noises and vibrate like their wings to where it like blows up like people's eardrums with these like frequencies, sort of like banshees, you know what I mean? Like they kind of operate like that.
Right.
I've always really wanted to like get my hands on some and use them. And I liked them more than Kroot, because Kroot are mercenaries. They're like, yeah, greater good. That's cool. We'll help out Tau. They're great. They help us with spaceships and technology. That's dope. That's cool. But, if they pay us, we'll do that too. The Vespid only communicate with the Tau. They do not do anything else with anybody else. They only do things with the Tau. They're loyal to like a fault. So that's kind of why I like him is it's like, that's the auxiliary you can trust. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think of like the Tau, like propaganda.
Right. That's dope, dude. I like that a lot. Yeah. The Kroot are weird. I'm specifically not bringing them up, even though they are one of my favorite, like hands down races.
I figured you would.
They're strange. The more I learn about digging into little Kroot things, the more the Kroot. We'll get into it later, but to suffice to say, there's a lot of kernels in Kroot lore that are basically like the Kroot used to be a massive empire, and then they kind of chose to hide it all and to revert back to looking a little bit more tribalistic, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about the Tau auxiliaries, is that there's a lot to them that isn't talked about. Like, and that's like the biggest thing about these Vespid is, and what they keep bringing up and they keep talking about, is how alien they are. Because they don't communicate. They don't, like, there's no, like, I forgot how they worded it, but they were like, when you see something alien, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and what this whole episode about is how things are not humanoid like. Right. They're like, these things have two legs, but that's it. There's nothing about them that is anything like they've encountered in any type of world. You know what I mean? Like, the way that they behave, and like, like they're not interested in things that benefit them. They're not they have no communication. They're not, they don't operate like a singular form, but they're not hive mind. You know what I mean? Like everything I've heard about these things is just how weird they are. And like, it makes a lot of like Tau uncomfortable, and like people, like the other auxiliaries that they fight with, they're really uncomfortable around them, because they're like, yeah, these things are not like the Geonosians in Star Wars.
Right.
They're kind of like a similar race type thing. But like Geonosians, like they had like a leader that they talked to, and they were like people, they'd walk around, and that's not how these things operate. Like they don't behave like people. Like they're very dedicated to tasks. They're very like hyper aggressive when they fight, but that's like, there's no soul to them, right? And that's like the whole thing about them.
I dig it, man. I'm super happy that you got this deep into Vespid. I think I learned more in this episode about Vespid than I knew, because I know their stat line, and I know how they're kind of used when you run them with Tau, because I had some metal ones back in the day. Actually, I probably still have them somewhere. But I never necessarily got into their lore. I'd love to know more. Obviously as we get into Tau at some point, we'll probably get into all the auxiliary races, but that's super dope, man.
Well, and like what made me pick them was, the past episodes, like one, I've always liked them, and two, you keep bringing up gas giants when we talk about worlds, and these things are from a gas giant.
Yeah. Well, and I've always, I've always loved this picture right here. I've always loved this idea. The idea that
it's super
land masses can exist.
Yeah, floating islands.
Yeah. And like how are they connected and why they're connected? It's just such a non-terrestrial concept. It's such a non-Earth concept.
Everything about these things is fucking alien. That's what I like about them.
Dope. All right, so, Kev, what do you got to hit us with?
I've
40K
got
race.
A couple.
Okay.
That's cheating.
I couldn't choose between two that I find equally terrifying. One of them is the Ambul.
Okay.
Ambul?
You can talk about the Ambul. It's not one of the ones I picked.
Oh, that's that thing I talked about the other day.
Yeah, this crazy looking thing.
Yeah, the like bug thing. Yeah, I was just the robots. They have robots of them.
There's robots that are these things as well. But these things are terrifying. And the fact that they're just like living underground underneath hive cities, and they're just like, oh, sup, I'm gonna eat you and everybody you know, and then I'm gonna dig back into the ground and never be fucking seen again. Like, damn. It's like it's a bug and a werewolf put together.
A shabuga wolf.
They're one of those things that the Imperium found really useful for doing certain tasks. So, of course, they imported them to every world, being like, "Oh, these are easy to control," and then they found out, "Oh, these aren't not easy
to control." And they live a long time, and they're not as terrifying as they are. You'd think they would be solitary, but they don't. They travel in small family packs.
That's
which
crazy.
Is pretty gnarly for something like this brutal. And they're fairly armored and everything. They tunnel and all that stuff, as we just discussed. They were imported because the Imperials thought they could be used to dig tunnels. Like,
oh yeah, really? They brought them as like mining equipment, and then they were like, fuck it, we'll just take their brain out and put it in a robot.
Well, and that's exactly why the Ambul robot exists. Is because the Imperium was like, all right, now we got to replace it. That they always make me think. If you're old school D&D enough, they always make me think of Umber Hulks.
Yeah.
I mean, they essentially are Umber Hulks. The only difference is Umber Hulks' forearms are so big is because they stuff them full of gold, so when they hit harder. Which is why killing an Umber Hulk in D&D is good, because you get a bunch of money.
Oh yeah,
I love the old model.
It says they're extremely hardy and long-lived social creatures. Close-knit family units with several adults tending to broods of 4 to 7 offspring.
And these are the offspring, right, Kev? These little things.
Yeah, I think that's what they start out as.
Like
when
their larvae or whatever.
They grow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another insectoid.
Yeah. And for some reason, I forgot that it only had 2 legs, but because they use their front arms as kind of like gorilla legs, they don't come off as bipedal exactly.
You know what they remind me of? Did you ever see Hellboy? Like the first one?
Yeah.
Remember that like dog thing, the hound that he was fighting?
The first thing that he fights.
Hound thing?
Yeah. It reminds me of that. Like its whole like arms and stance and stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, the model is sick.
The model is dope.
Oh,
and how it's got the little babies like crawling off the back of it.
Over it. Yeah, that's gross.
Super gross.
It's like an insectoid.
Like they don't die to pollution and all that kind of stuff either. So like
this thing,
they're just it's super similar.
Yeah.
It says that any environment is less hostile than their native one.
I'm pretty sure they're from Luther McIntyre 9 or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah. The other one is
they're from an ice world. Sima Orcalis.
Oh, they're not from Luther, whatever.
No, it says that they were sighted on Ice World Simia Orcalike. The Valhalla Ice Warriors Regiment spotted them.
Oh, wow.
But okay, so I've got the name wrong on it. But it's the big brain controller floaty monsters from 30K.
Oh, Zelanthropes?
No,
not the Tyranid.
Enslavers.
Enslaver. I was like, it's an overlord, but I know that's not the right name. Enslavers. Those things are crazy.
Enslavers are fucking cool. And they totally hit that other rule that we brought up at the beginning. Everything is how it be except when warp fuckery, because enslavers are technically a warp creature.
Oh, are they
right.
really?
They're not exactly they're not like a warp demon that can like come in and out of the warp. They're like the product of the warp.
Yeah, they're like a warp denizen. They're like an alien from the warp.
It's like they live in the webway kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
Weird.
And there was an entire war called the War of the Enslavers. I think in the Age of Strife, or right, no, it may even be.
It was like in combination with all the other bullshit. There was the War of the Enslavers, where basically the Enslavers came out of the birth of Sladesh or something like that, and
they took over.
Basically, started taking over the minds of people, and once that happens, you're fucked,
dude. They're interdimensional beings. They have the ability to transcend normal space, allowing them to easily traverse the galaxy and perhaps beyond.
Yeah, they're
That's
fucking
crazy.
Nuts.
And they have all that. They check all the boxes for terrifying horror creature.
Oh yeah,
it's not exactly like just a monster.
Dude, look at this kit bash I just found.
That is so cool.
Yeah, dude, they're gnarly.
Enslavers are totally. Oh, that's cool. Heretic guard with enslavers. Look at that. Enslaver kill
I've seen
team.
That's dope.
That's dope.
Yeah. That's pretty rad. I had never heard of them.
Really?
Yeah, I've never heard of them before.
Enslavers.
I don't dabble. I don't dabble in the warp, yo. Like I don't play with that. Like they're like, oh, the warp. I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like.
Enslavers are definitely on the I want to deeper dive into them at some point. I mean, I feel like all of these that we bring up that we could totally deeper dive, and we probably will deeper dive on at some point.
Yeah.
There's something, it's smaller, and the not the Dothraki, that's the Drukai. The Durakai? How do you say Dark Eldar?
Drukari.
The Drakari have something they use called like a Medusa, which is like a smaller version, like a tailored version of the Enslaver.
Yeah, it's like their custom bred version of it, and it's smaller, and they can basically put it on people to make them do what they want.
Oh, that's sick.
And that thing specifically lives in the webway.
Oh, I've seen those. Those I have seen.
Yeah, they're nasty. Yeah, the Enslavers are pretty neat. I know there's a bit of lore. I know they're an early galaxy, just like the Vespid, probably, since the Vespid have the tie into the old ones. I know they're an early galaxy thing.
These are the Enslavers. The Enslavers are from the War in Heaven.
Okay,
that's where they trace back to.
Yeah, I love this picture. This picture is dope. It's the Enslavers, and then you can see all the guardsmen or former guardsmen underneath.
That's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's cool.
Yeah,
totally.
So first thing they do is go after a psyker and then use that psyker to open a portal to bring more enslavers.
Yeah, makes sense. What I just read is that the way they transport through the warp is through the vibrations of other beings' psyches.
Yeah.
So like basically they follow people's dreams.
That's crazy.
Dude, dream stealers.
Dream stealers. That's sick.
And they love to eat Eldar.
Oh yeah, anything that resonates harder is going to be more. Man, I really I'm seeing all these kit bashes for Enslavers, and I'm like, why do I want to make a bunch of Enslavers now?
Oh, that would be so cool to make an Enslaver-based anything army.
I mean, it'd be easy. You could literally pick
any army you want.
Take any army and just hodgepodge the shit out of them. So you have like some Tyranids, you've got like some guardsmen, you got some orcs, you got some space marines, just a whole mesh. That would actually be a pretty cool game we could play.
Yeah.
Man, that's so cool. That was an awesome pick, Kev.
Yeah. I was like, Ambuls are the one that everybody's gonna know. And like comes off as like your classic monster movie, like kind of shenanigan.
Ambuls have been around for a long, and Enslavers actually. Both the races you brought up have been around for a long time. I want to say both are mentioned in Rogue Trader. I know for a fact Ambuls
both are incredibly.
I think sure about Enslavers.
I think the Enslavers are. I mean, they're old. So
yeah, they're at least close. Second edition if they're not in Rogue Trader. And I'm not 100% positive on the primary planet of Ambuls, but I know for a fact that Ambuls are one of the things that it's talked about in the Luther McIntyre 9 or whatever, which is the planet that all of Rogue Trader takes place on.
Yeah.
Or the setting that they suggest you use. But so Ambuls, Groks, and there's a couple of other like animals that are now synonymous across the entire Imperium, and it's literally because the Imperium imported them to other planets, and they're invasive.
Yeah.
They just fucking wreck
they figured
face.
out. Well, I mean, and Grox is basically like a combination cow-pig.
They're weirdly, and they're super like meat-wise cow-pig, but they're actually really dangerous.
Yeah, but I mean, like they farm them as a substitute for both cow and pig,
right?
Because they farm them for also the leather and other stuff.
Yeah, here's what a Grox.
Those are
here's an old Grox art.
I didn't think they'd be quite so alligatory.
Yeah,
they'd be more like woolly rhino.
Like Grok.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, like I always just figured they called them Groks, but that they were more like woolly rhinoceros than they were.
Yeah, that's a more modern Grox.
That looks so much like a Chaos Warhound, though.
A little bit.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, Groks are definitely something that we should dive on at some point.
That's crazy that they just like farm these things for meat, but they're like stupid dangerous.
Yeah. Well, they taste really good. And I think the thing with the Groks is that if you breed them specifically, they become more docile. They're only like super bestial and dangerous.
They get left alone.
Yeah. But I think the whole idea is like they're as dangerous as like a raging bull. You know, you don't want to tangle with the bull either.
Oh yeah.
You get the horns.
Definitely not. Yeah, mess with the bull, you get the horns.
I went with the Rak'Ghul. So the Rak'Ghul are a vicious Xenos marauder, and they're a relatively new threat within the Kornos expanse of the Halo Stars. So they're exactly one of those areas that we're talking about. So that's just adjacent to the Calixis sector. They were encountered first around some dim stars past the Analic depths, and they're little more than a standard century ago. Now this is lore introduced towards the end of 7th, not towards the end, I think towards the end of 6th. So we're talking like the 800s of M41. So at this point, the Groks have probably been around for a little bit longer, but at the time they were fairly new. Or not the Groks, the Rak'Ghul were fairly new. They are pretty nasty looking.
Rak'Ghul are another one of my favorites that I was thinking about using, but I figured somebody might want them, so I left them out for you guys.
Yeah, they're the ones I picked.
I've not heard of.
Really? Oh yeah, these things are terrifying.
Yeah, these things are pretty terrifying. So they are.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about these before.
Yeah, we've brought them up before a few times, but they're like a 30k nasty baddie.
Yeah.
So they remind me of the things from fucking Maze Runner.
A little bit. Oh yeah, that's a good analogy. Right? Yeah. So they're chalky white in color, and they've got a mantis-like body as far as arrangement. So they've got 4 legs and then 2 sets of arms. The more they fight, the older they get, the more they hunt, essentially, the more they replace different body parts with augmentics. So in the picture that I brought up, he's got a chainsword. That's not because he had a limb cut off in battle. That's because he was rewarded with the ability to willingly replace a body part. They've got the things that I think are really cool about them, other than the fact that they've got a very non-standard body construction. Their culture is very similar to that of the Predator. The Yanti is, I believe, what the Predators are actually called. Yautja. Okay. They've got a very similar culture. So when a Rak'Ghul hits adolescence, they go out into the universe to hunt. And the more they hunt, the more they kill, the more they murder, the more they're rewarded with essentially replacing parts of their body with like different weapons to basically go ahead.
Why is this not more in 40k? I don't hear anything about why is this not more? This is sick. They should be their own thing.
They should be their own race.
There's actually
they should be their own playable
race. The Rak'Ghul to be the next Xenos playable race. Like there's even people who think it should have been over squats.
I'm one of those. Well, I don't know over squats, but I definitely have been pushing for either Kroot or Rak'Ghul to get their own moment in the spotlight for a while. So the Rak'Ghul.
Oh, that's a good picture. Like bunch of Imperials being hunted by one.
Oh yeah, they like to hunt people, or they like to hunt.
And people put up a challenge.
The other things that are really interesting about them is all of their planets are irradiated wastelands. So nobody really knows why, but they seem to like create irradiated wastelands to live in. And obviously this makes them relatively difficult for the Imperium to encounter, because when the Imperium does encounter them, like, you can't land on and deal with that planet. That planet's, it's a hellstorm. You go down there, you're going to die. The planets that they terraform specifically by bombarding and irradiating the shit out of them. Their planets are mostly avoided by the Imperium. The other thing that's really interesting is the way that their spaceships look. They're pretty fucking big, but their ships are almost universally designed around a weapon. Like, the entire ship is surrounding a giant gun. They're just nasty. What are you going to say? They look like?
I was going to say, they kind of like, they look like if Tyranids had to build with plates and beams.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
It's an organic design built with modern, or not modern, but like conventional engineering.
Right. So as I mentioned, they were encountered first probably in the 700s or 800s. They were encountered by rogue trader, who tried to run. They ended up at some point, the Mechanicus found an abandoned void ship, and they were able to get inside and kind of look around. So it just, the first ship that was encountered that had been hit by them was the Soulless. The Soulless, not the Soulless, but the Soulless as in star. When they found the ship floating, they came in, and the entire crew had just been fucking slaughtered. They had no idea by what, because there were no bodies left behind. And that's not because of a cultural thing. That's because the Rak'Ghul didn't lose. The reason that the Mechanicus knows what the Rak'Ghul look like, the reason that the Bios Mechanicus and the biologists know what they look like, the reason that we have but the Imperium has xenobiology information about them, is the Rak'Ghul don't, because so much of their culture is based on like slaughter and killing, they don't develop a lot of their own technology. Most of their technology is salvaged and stolen from other races. And they don't really care if you die. If you die, you were dumb enough to die, and they'll just leave your body behind. So like a lot of times when they find these guys, they've got, if they've got a chainsword, it looks pretty much like an Imperium chainsword. It might be remade with Rak'Ghul technology, like a Rak'Ghul may have remade it in the image of a chainsword, but it's pretty much, it's a chainsword. When they are found with meltas or beamers or las cannons or whatever, it's not some crazy Xenos tech like you might encounter with the Tau or with the Eldar. It's pretty much whatever the Rak'Ghul have been able to reverse engineer and rebuild, or that they've outright stolen. So they're a very, to me, they're an essential boogeyman. Kind of like Tom, your immediate reaction to them. And they're so fucking cool that they feel like they should be a Grey Knight level or Custodes level army, where you're not going to have a lot of the models. You're going to have a smaller model count, but they're going to fucking, each of them soaks 4 wounds or whatever fucking crazy transhuman.
They're all like Terminators or Tyrion warriors, all buffed up like level.
Yeah, they're cool. I really like them. I'd love to kit bash an entire army of them. The problem is the closest model to like starting as a base is the Fiends of Slaanesh, which are pretty similar in look. And it's just weird to figure out like what rules to use, because do you run them as custodes? You kit bash an army of Rak'Ghul and then you use custodes rules, or how would you do it?
Yeah,
they are definitely.
But that probably would work though. Custodes would probably work because they're big enough to be roughly the right size and everything.
Here's one of them from the
yeah, I like this one because he's got a gun, like a small gun, a mini gun, and his battle axe.
Yeah, he's got a big ass axe, an autocannon, and then some like weird injector.
Yeah, it's so weird. I would have never thought. I've never heard about them until you guys talked about them.
And like when we were talking about like picking monsters for like, you know, this, I always imagine it like how would a monster movie featuring one of these monsters go? And I would just imagining like a Rak'Ghul monster movie, knowing that they take the stuff from, you know, what they get, they loot the technology and everything. Could you imagine it's just like normal people and one comes in and it starts out with
rips
nothing,
the first
right?
dude
It starts
in
out
half.
basically just like a brand new. It rips the first dude in half, right? Like barehanded because it doesn't have any weapons yet. And throughout the movie, it's getting the weapons that they try to use against it, and it and it circumnavigates the weapon and ends up getting it for itself and turning it back on the people. Oh man, that would make such a good monster movie, and that's how these things would.
And then like the
really
end
well
scene
movie,
is it, you know, whoever your final survivor or whatever, it gets away some super clever way, but not in a way that kills it. And then since it hunted and murdered a bunch of stuff, the last sequence, the post
is it getting
the post
like,
credit sequence is another Rak'Ghul like chainsawing its arm off to put something else in its place. There's fucking blood and viscera everywhere.
Oh man, that would be so good.
Fucking they're nasty. I'd absolutely, if I could figure out how to kit bash an entire army of these things, I would try.
Oh yeah.
Tom, since you started us off with our 40k race, are you ready to jump into your non-40k?
I do want to do like an honorable mention of non-40k aliens.
Okay.
Ghidorah from Godzilla, the 3-headed dragon.
Oh.
Yeah, technically that's an alien. Oh yeah, the meme picture that everybody has, like my personalities.
Yeah.
But like I think that's a pretty, you know, it's a dragon, but it's an alien. You know, so like it ties into, you know, the past, and a big chunk of it, people just think that it's like, oh no, this is just an ancient being, and then you come to find out like, oh wait, no, it's a fucking alien.
Yeah, and doesn't he end up being like a supreme like alien or something? Yeah,
basically it like the whole Godzilla thing, that the new stuff that they've come out with is like they're alpha predators, and Ghidorah is such like the crazy big alpha that everybody just becomes subservient to him. But I thought it was just a cool idea to have something like that, you know, you think is just like a dragon or like some ancient being, and it's like, oh no, it's an alien. And you're like, wait, what? Like, you know,
he's dope
making
looking
a
too.
dragon. Yeah, making a dragon like an alien, like, you know, imagine that thing like flying through space. You know what I mean? Like, that just, I don't know. It's so out there. Like, that's so crazy to me, like weird that I like it. But yeah, so that's my first honorable mention. The real one that I'm going with is actually the Borg from Star Trek. I think there's some loopholes, just like there is in anything, you know, like saying that like, oh yeah, like the Borg weren't really interested in humans, but they weren't, like their first interactions. And it's like some people are like, oh, they never assimilated humans until Picard did something. And it's like, no, because there were humans on board. But basically what they are is that they are like the sci-fi boogeyman of a assimilation race. So they are super technologically advanced, like living machines, sort of like if you could imagine Necrons, but Necrons took over people and turned them into them, is kind of what the Borg are like. They adapt to technology. They are a hive. They're not even really a hive mind. They're a singular mind.
Yeah, they're all one, right? Like it's all one big computer or something.
Well, I mean, it's a hive mind, but it's at the same time, each drone is semi-autonomous, and they consult with each other in real time. the queen is the only one who really has independent thought, but even then, the queen isn't even like always omnipresent.
And this is the queen,
that.
Right?
That's the queen.
Yeah, well, and the thing about the queen is that the queen is actually just an avatar. It's not
okay.
Right. The queen is like temporary construct needed when they felt they needed a queen for diplomacy.
The AI, because the whole thing about the Borg is that they're one. They're one being. They consider themselves one being.
Yeah, they consider all Borg to be the same being, but each mind is still a different mind. So, like, when the Borg are thinking,
they think as a collective.
They think as a collective, not as a hive.
And that's like the whole thing, is that they're not a hive mind, they're a collective mind. But they're like one, but the cool thing about them is that they're just like, Star Trek is seen as this like super, PG series where, oh yes, like the world is good and we don't believe in money and we go out into space and want to travel, and the Borg are like, yeah, we do the same thing, but instead of you dealing with like diplomacy and all that bullshit, we just take
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like about them so much. Is there's a lot of people have talked about it, that they're like the inverse, but they're really just like the revved up version of the same thing. Starfleet humans in Starfleet have become lazy and bored. They don't do war anymore. Like, they believe in peaceful expanse, and the Borg kind of do the same thing, but they do it by force, and everything is to everything is to better the collective. Like, everything is to feed the collective. When they separate the beings from like the individuals, like the humans that basically are half machine, half human, when they separate them from the collective, they die because they can't function without it,
Okay.
And there's been like several cases where they've brought people back from the collective, but it's like, Star Trek First Contact is all about the fight with the Borg, and it is a real and scary fucking thing. Like, it is scary how the Borg are,
Oh yeah, like that's the first time you're like, damn, I never seen like the main characters in a show like Star Trek lose this hard.
They
episodes.
Look like, even some of the sillier pictures that I'm finding and bringing up, like some of the ones that you can tell are definitely from earlier. This is obviously like Voyager, but some of them that I found are from earlier stuff. But some of them, like
even the art,
they look,
because they're not all humans.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like,
they also look like zombies, though. Like, their flesh bits are dead. Obviously, 7 of 9 or whatever is the hot one, but this is looking at the design of these 3 right here. This first dude totally looks like a zombie. This second dude totally looks like a zombie. Like, they're creepy.
Well, and I mean, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen Voyager, but 7 of 9 looked. So if you go back like 3 or 4, that one with the eye pokey that you said,
the past picture,
this one,
that one, that's 7 of 9.
Really?
That's the same one. Yeah,
that's her.
They unborg her.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's exactly. So there's only a couple of people they do that to. Picard becomes a Borg.
7, and then I think there's one other one.
There's one of the first ones they encountered. They separated him, but then he died.
He died shortly after,
Yeah. But that was Picard as Locutus, which was like meant to be like the
I
king.
am Locutus, the Borg.
There are 4 lights. That's all I remember. There are 4 lights.
The scariest thing is like when they communicate, like, they're fully autonomous. Like, they're just like, we are the Borg, prepare to be assimilated. Resistance is futile. And you're just like, ooh. Like, they're super.
And it's
cold.
crazy because there's nothing anybody can do about it. And the way they say it isn't. They know that there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
prepare to be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
Yeah,
that's the end of the conversation. It's just over and done with.
Like,
there's no like.
You hit them with a gun, and then the next shot they've adapted. They have a shield for it.
Adaptive shielding. So if you hit them with a phaser. And if you don't change that phaser's wavelength, the next shot, or sometimes it takes 2 or 3 for them to fully adapt, but after a few shots, it's basically they've adapted to whatever wavelength you're firing at them.
So did they start as a machine Is
the
it
whole
like
thing,
an AI?
So the whole thing about the Borg, I just like read about them and like did a whole thing before doing the podcast. The whole thing about the Borg is that nobody really knows what they started as.
Okay.
But they, at some point, a race got to a level, and it's a humanoid race because everything in Star Trek is humanoid.
Right.
It got to a level where their artificial dependency became so high that eventually it's our biggest fear of like AI taking over humanity.
We're so
AI,
dependent on the machine to do our work for us, sort of thing.
And instead of the machines just killing us off, the machines absorb us into them and we become a race, is basically what it is. And
like a hybrid race.
Yeah. And so at some point this occurred. And this is like far beyond any galaxy in Star Trek space. Like for them at maximum warp, when like basically a race called the Q shot them into Borg space.
Mm-hmm.
They were 2 years away from the closest like recognizable system. And at maximum warp, that's like, 10 times the speed of light. Like they were 2 years away. So they were 2 million light years or some shit, like whatever the fuck it was. Like that's just how far they were from their space. And there was talk of them like coming in contact with the human races and like the Romulans and the other races of Star Trek, and they weren't really interested. They were more interested in technology because they were gradually going away from these things,
human bodies essentially.
Well,
like
the bodies, right? So if you can imagine, right, basically it's like the Necron got rid of their physical bodies altogether. So these guys were in the process of doing that. The Borg were in the process of getting rid of their physical dependency to their bodies, and then they found the human race and were like, oh no, we can make this work more. And so then they started to absorb the human race. And that's what like the big Star Trek like wars have been between them and the Borg, is that the Borg found the human bodies to be very, useful.
Okay.
So they started to, assimilate, they call it. They started to assimilate humans more and went further and deeper into them, for their technology and for them. Because when they take over a Borg or take over a person, they assimilate their memories, their knowledge, and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that the queen,
it's not just that they eat their technology and then consume the body to become a hive mind. It's the whole like little spiel is your cultural and technological distinctiveness will be added to our own,
to the collective. Yeah.
It's literally an assimilation and an absorption. It's not an imperialistic overriding of whatever. It's literally taking what the Borg finds best about a race and keeping it.
Right.
Got you.
And so the queen, the queen was created. They call her the queen. She's not. Her real name isn't like the queen.
Right.
She's an avatar of the collective mind. Hence why she has so much more like free will. Like she operates more like a normal person, and that's because they needed a person to be the like communicative being.
They need somebody to interface with other races.
Yes, to become a proper interface for other races. So the queen,
is such a creepy
basically,
picture with the like.
Yeah, well, that's all she is. The body is it's all
super
mechanical.
creepy.
But yeah, so that's like her thing.
Okay, so her organic parts. I was just wondering, to look human.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's crazy is the Borg didn't feel the need to have this until they start interacting with humans.
Exactly.
And it can be argued that by assimilating large numbers of humans, the Borg actually became more individualistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the races that they had and that's actually one of the things that comes up later on in the series is that by adding so many more free-willed people of humanity, it actually changes the Borg. They became slightly less uniform in like thought.
Well, because they're not dedicated to, they're dedicated to being the very best of the very best, the epitome of everything, right? Of knowledge, of survival, of everything. So they're not dedicated to one way of existence. Like they will do whatever it is.
So they found
like
something in humans that was better than whatever they were operating with.
It's almost like when...
Yeah, it worked better for their survival.
And and I think it's also just the human adaptability.
Yes.
Like it's covered in Star Trek that humans are super adaptable to almost any environment you put them, and they have enough intelligence to kind of help them do it. Whereas the other races are better at certain things, but don't have the like all around advantages that humans have.
That's cool, man. I learned way more about the Borg in 20 minutes from you than I learned from watching a scattering of episodes.
I
think it's really cool that we all picked such drastically different things,
right?
And we all learned something new. About different races. That's cool. Good job, guys.
My dad was always a really big fan of Star Trek and the Borg, and that's what got me into sci-fi. Was that so? The Borg have like a very like, I love the Borg. Like I think they're the coolest freaking characters, and like just the way that they are, dude. I love them. And like in every movie, when they're like, "We are the Borg. Prepare to be assimilated," and you're just like,
right? It like goosebumps.
You're like, ooh, assimilate me, daddy.
And it's also such a like final statement. Like you can't. It doesn't matter how far. Like the way that obviously. In science fiction, the resistance is futile thing is a joke. Like it is parodied so far, but the way that you introduced it and the way that you described it is I don't know if you guys ever saw the horror movie It Follows, but the whole concept of the movie is it's a horror movie that's essentially an STD. So if you sleep with somebody who's haunted by the entity, it follows you. It doesn't run, it doesn't do it. It slowly walks towards you until it catches you and then it kills you. But that's the way that you just described the Borg. It's not that the resistance is futile thing isn't a tongue-in-cheek joke in this case, because they're going to eventually get there, and they don't care. They don't care how long it takes. They're Michael Myers-ing towards
they're just like,
definitely. And also, like when they do that, it's not that they show up on a planet and declare this to the whole planet.
No,
I mean at one point that is an option for them, but it's generally they've found a single ship by itself on the fringes of space. Because the Borg knew that when they were smaller in number, if they attracted the attention of a large galactic power, it could end them. Like, they can adapt to everything, but if a concentrated thing came after them, it could, be a problem.
Their ships are dope, too.
Oh, yeah, the Borg Cube is such a crazy concept.
Is it one spaceship, or are there many? Okay.
There's many of them.
Well, that right there is one.
But, okay.
But that's one.
Okay, but there isn't one of them. But
there is
that's what
many of.
No, there's
but
thousands.
They typically only travel in single cube units.
Yeah,
because that's all that's needed.
Yeah,
like nothing can fight a cube. It's bigger than the Enterprise substantially.
Yeah, a lot bigger.
And when it finds like I was saying, a ship by itself on the frontier, it just locks them in a tractor beam, and it's like, all right, you're going to be assimilated now, and there's nothing you can
do
about
that really how big it is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it takes the entire, like, to fight in First Contact, the movie, spoiler, but it takes almost the entire Starfleet
Federation Navy
to fight one.
That's a super Star Destroyer.
And then what? Yeah. It's dumb. Like, Borg cubes are one of the few things in sci-fi that might put up a resistance in 40k.
Yeah. That's why I like them so much, is I'm like, damn, dude, like, they could exist in 40k. Like, they could absolutely. That's kind of how I view the AdMech. If the AdMech were a lot more, like, autonomous and more hive brainy, like, collective, would be very similar to the Borg.
If the noosphere took over the AdMech, like, if the noosphere became kind of, infective in a way, and infected all of the AdMech and they couldn't turn it off, that would be fairly Borg-like.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my out of. They have spheres too. The spheres are more like
smaller.
The spheres operate. They're inside of the cubes, and if the cube is getting destroyed, because also the cube can self-heal itself. It can self-repair.
Yeah, the Borg cubes, they can self-repair quite heavily, but it does slowly, kind of like necrodermis, repair itself.
They do. They sound very like if you were to if you were to have Necrons. Not Necrons. If you were to have AdMech get their way, and they actually started checking out Necrons a little too closely.
Well, they remind me of a cross between AdMech and Necrons.
That's cool. It's dope. I'm glad you brought them up. All right,
Definitely.
Kev, who's your non 40k race?
So my non 40k race, monster, creature, nasty boogeyman thing. The Thing.
Ooh, I love that movie so much. Even the prequel's pretty good.
Don't know why it brought up about Pam. I don't know what the fuck that is.
The Thing about Pam.
Well, she's obviously a gene stealer.
Right?
That's the thing about Pam.
So the Thing, there are actually like several movies that copy this monster style, but this is the only alien.
Yeah. And oh man, this movie crosses so many horror checkboxes. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
Like just that picture you've got it on right now just gives me
it's such a wicked scene.
Like oh man. Oh yeah. Watch just all the body parts running away. And what's crazy is it's not exactly one monster, it's like a species of monster.
Well, so the whole thing about the Thing is the thing about the Thing is that every molecule is its own organism. It has its own mind. So like to the people, I don't know, Kevin, if you want to explain it, but like what the Thing is a movie, obviously.
So the movie, well, we'll go with the original movie just for continuity's sake and making sure everybody knows where to start. The movie starts with a dog running across the ice. The top left, you got it right there.
Oh yeah.
Try not to depend too much on the pictures because I realize we're doing that a lot in this.
Well, that's true.
That's true. Yeah, so if you're listening, you're not going to see the pictures.
Dog running across a snowfield. So as he is just pulled up, it's a husky running across a snowfield, being chased by a low-flying helicopter, and it's in Antarctica. That's your premise for the movie, and you're like, oh, okay, that's crazy. And then when the little part of the plot finally kicks off, the helicopter is landing. His dude runs out with a gun and starts pointing it at the people where the dog ran up to, and he's yelling in Norwegian, and nobody can understand. And so you're just already, it's like, oh, that's crazy. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? So they blast his ass because he's obviously crazy, right? Waving a rifle around like an idiot. And, don't muzzle flag your friends. That's just that's what you do. But he definitely pointed his gun at people who had more guns than he did.
Yep.
And he lost that fight. Found out the hard way. And shortly after that, they find out that the reason he was very angry about the dog is there's something wrong with the dog. Turns out the dog is definitely pretending to be a dog. And is actually the Thing. Dun dun dun. Insert most creative name. The Thing. And the Thing, turns out, it pretends to be other things in order to infect them. And then it can assume whatever form it kind of needs to. It can change forms into other forms. It can break into multiple different parts and become multiple things that then change form. And it's gross. It's creepy. It has the other thing of like, you don't know who it is.
It's a very
and there's a joke
big
a long time.
And we probably talked about the Thing the most as a single movie that we've referred to the most. It's probably Event Horizon and the Thing. I know we definitely refer to both of them. That's true.
Starship Troopers is up there.
Starship Troopers.
But yeah, the Thing is it's a very creepy body horror concept because like it's a cult classic. It's basically,
and what's
secluded people dealing with this alien being that can mimic them. So paranoia, delusions.
It checks all the boxes. It's psychological horror, it's body horror, there's gore at certain points, there's creepy monster fights, there's the man versus environment because it's in Antarctica.
I will never forget when the dude is freaking out and he goes to give him the defibrillator.
Such a good fucking scene.
And it's just like, dude, his chest just
that
spits open into a giant mouth, just like what's on like his arms. Yeah. It's like a Death Guard stomach, dude. It basically just opens up and then just eats his hands. Like it's so good.
It's an alien, but it basically functions like chaos monsters would.
Yeah, very much. Actually,
it operates more like a chaos beast.
It does really tie into chaos,
than it does an alien, but it itself is an alien from another.
It came out.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting thing about the movie The Thing. It's such a weird movie to talk about because we keep saying The Thing.
What thing is that?
So it came out.
What's the thing about the thing?
I had to verify because I knew that it came out kind of around this time, but it came out in 82. It came out really, really close to like the gas issues of the late 1979. And it was a very overall kind of depressing time in U.S. history. And it was not well received. It's a very dark movie.
Really? Well, Stephen King, too.
It's the funny thing about it is nowadays.
Oh, I forgot it was King.
Is it Stephen King?
Oh yeah,
did he write it?
That's it. Yeah, it was originally a book.
It's one of those films that like nowadays is considered one of the best horror films ever made. Because it ticks, as Kevin said, it ticks a lot of the boxes. It's John Carpenter, right? Yeah, it's John Carpenter.
Oh, shut up. John Carpenter?
He directed it.
John Carpenter.
Oh, he's the director.
Yeah,
but no, Stephen King wrote
most of Stephen King's stuff is bad. That's the only reason I'm like, did he? But maybe he did.
No, Stephen King also did The Mist.
Stephen King definitely did. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked The Mist. The Mist was good.
It's finally on Netflix, and I was like, now I can watch it without paying for it.
Nice.
Yeah, The Thing, 100%. It was written by Stephen King. I'm almost 100% sure.
But while he continues to look that up, let's keep talking about it. It's just so good because as the like infection progresses through the party of people, it eventually leads to them trying to figure out the test. And then everybody's like, well, fuck you. How do I know you're not the thing making up the test to just tell everybody else is the thing? Like, oh, it's so good. The psychological horror that goes back and forth and the paranoia, like you said, is just, it's top notch. It is so tense at times. Like, there's not very many movies that can get tension without using like overt violence to like help escalate it. Like, you sitting next to somebody who might not be the person that they look like. Like, that's
such a creepy thing. So,
and then even if you go all the way,
and that's the like that last sequence, people still argue about it.
That last sequence, people argue to this day who was actually the thing.
Well, most people argue that Childs is the thing because his breath doesn't mist at the end of the movie. Yeah,
he doesn't breathe. He doesn't.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They're both going to die because of the temperature outside. Yeah, it was written by it is.
Yeah, and at the end of the day,
it was written by another.
And you're right. And at the end of the day,
but another very famous science fiction horror writer. So you had science fiction horror writer, right? And John Carpenter is just up there, like top notch.
I totally thought.
Carpenter's great.
Totally
you had me, man. I was like, oh shit.
I totally thought it was. I was way off.
The thing is a great monster or a great alien, and such a different ideas for an alien too, because it doesn't have. You never see what the thing looks like because it's as Tom I think mentioned towards the beginning, it just copies the molecular structure of other things.
Yeah.
And it can become all kinds of other things in the process.
Yeah. The crazy thing about it is that I can't do it. So there's a prequel that came out that was actually really good, and then there was a video game that was a sequel, which was actually really good.
There was also a really old video game that follows the plot of the original movie, more or less.
Yeah.
And that was on like GameCube back in the day. But and that game was really good too.
Yeah, but the stories between all three of them, the ones that I'm like specifically talking about, the prequel movie and the sequel video game, is they were not connected at all, but they were because they were just written really well. And what's so funny is that like after this movie, there were so many other movies that came out with a very similar premise. Deep Star 6 and Leviathan were almost like copy paste, except they were like, instead of the frozen Arctic, we're gonna make it underwater. You know, like
the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, Deep Star 6 was like literally a copy. You know, like,
so I had it's 100% the thing on VHS, and then when the video game came out. If you pre-registered for it, the 2002 one? Game, when you pre-registered for it, you got the DVD in the game. DVD
for the movie.
So I actually, the thing is one of the only DVDs I own in my entire life that is in a clear jewel case, and that is it. And there's no cover, there's no nothing, because the reason that I own the thing on DVD is because I got it when I bought the video game, and that allowed me to replace my VHS copy. It was one of the few horror films that I had from the VHS era. It's still one of my favorite movies. Still one of my favorite movies.
Oh, hands down.
It's a great movie.
So good. Oh yeah, dude, I could watch that. The watchability is still good.
The testament to how good that like just the premise is fast forward to what, 2 or 3 years ago at this point.
Oh yeah.
Look at Among Us.
Oh yeah.
Everybody played that game it was like a month or two straight basically. But that's all of the same concept. It's literally the same concept turned into a multiplayer game. And they took it to the next level where they're voting everybody out and like, you got to try to track them down, but oh man, it's crazy that the same premise is still relevant to like people today. And that we find it still just as terrifying, even though that it's an ancient concept.
Well, it's the unknown thing. It's the unknown thing that's known. It's hiding in plain sight. It's the whole concept that the person that you're next to, the person that you're supposed to trust the most, isn't who you think they are. It's
or couldn't be. Could not be. And then trying to make that decision is a whole like
fuck.
Breaks your psyche.
Cool. Yeah. Well,
it's so good. I love it.
To continue with weird ass shit that you guys may or may not have heard of ever before, I am gonna bring up the Pierson's Puppeteers as my alien. I was gonna say you probably don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, never heard of.
No, it's like The Thing is the only one that I've heard of, and it's called The Thing that we've talked about so far. That looks like an ostrich with 4 legs.
Kinda. There we go.
2 ostriches.
All right. So Pierson's Puppeteers are also known as Puppeteers, are from Larry Niven's Known Universe novel series. Larry Niven is a science fiction author that I'm going to talk about a lot because Larry Niven is one of the first authors that I read that inspired me to get into creative writing. Larry Niven has his universe. It's his fault. This podcast is his fault.
Yeah, that's how I'm saying. That's his fault.
So he's got a known universe. So, think of the Milky Way galaxy, but only part of it is understood. Only part of it is colonized by humans. Only part of it is understood by humans. So a lot of things that we kind of take for granted a little bit in the science fiction universe, the greater thing, especially in the video game universe, kind of go back to Niven ideas. And Niven has written a lot of science fiction a lot of science fiction episodes that end up in some of our favorite shows, Star Trek being a huge one. If you guys are familiar with the Kzinti tiger people, in the Star Trek expanded universe. They're big
The
cat
name
people.
sounds
They're
familiar.
big angry tiger people.
The Khajiit.
If you've seen or if you've played the game Wing Commander, the tiger people that are the bad guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they look like fucking Goldar from Power Rangers minus the wings.
Yes, that is a Larry Niven race. They are not evil. They're an adversarial race.
They're bad guys. Yeah.
They're big guys. So Pierson's Puppeteers were discovered by a guy named Pierson, which is why they're called Pierson's Puppeteers. But Puppeteers are highly intelligent herbivores. They're a herd animal. They prefer the company of their own kind. They operate a lot on the same level of Vespid. A lot of it is non-communicative stuff. So it's pheromones and smell is a lot of the way that they interact with their own kind. They reproduce similar to wasps. So there's another interesting connection to Vespid. They consider themselves to have
eggs, or
no, they operate a lot like the digger wasp. So they consider a puppeteer considers themselves to have 3 genders. 2 are male and 1 is female inside each creature. So the 2 male genders are equivalent to a human female, and the male one has an ovipositor. So they're the one that produces, the female is the one that produces the sperm. And the female is non-sentient, so it's a parasited style host, and then that's deposited. But all of them exist within one creature.
I'm fucking lost.
So the thing that's cool about them is the way that they look. So they are 3-legged, and they have 2 mouth stalks. And they're kind of like mouth limbs is another way to look at them. So they've got these 2 heads that come out of their body, each have a single eye. And then they're surrounded, their mouth, so to speak, is surrounded by like these fleshy, like thumbs is the only way to kind of describe it. So they use...
Yeah, it looks like their lips are fingers.
They use their mouths to manipulate everything. So steering spaceships, firing weapons, all of that sort of stuff is all manipulated by their mouth parts, but they also speak through them.
Wait, hold on. So this thing is like an intelligent race?
Yes, these are intelligent.
What the fuck? It looks like a fucking cow.
Right? They're incredibly intelligent. So they are very advanced, centuries or millenniums ahead of any other species, including humans, when they're encountered. For example, humans in Niven's universe invented or actually purchased from the Puppeteers a method of cheap teleportation in the 25th century called the transfer booth. So if you're, Star Trek, teleporter, beamer, same sort of thing. On their planets, on Puppeteers' planets, they have these discs that are laid in the ground. And as you step onto the disc, it immediately teleports you to the next disc. So Puppeteers, in a lot of ways,
that's cool,
instantaneously travel around their empire. They're a herbivore. So they're not very warlike. They're not very...
predatory.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, they don't have like a killing instinct that's not in them.
Yes. And in fact, puppeteers that are courageous, puppeteers that are explorers, are considered to have symptoms that humans would associate with mental illnesses, such as bipolar disorder or clinical depression. So a puppeteer who's willing to go out and explore or who's willing to fight is looked at as being this
like a crazy person.
Abnormal-ish, yeah, but not necessarily. It's seen as like a depression, like, oh, they're suffering from something that can be treated. It's not looked at the way that we look at the way that humans look at courage. It's difficult to talk about this stuff without, I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm not trying to say anything negative about people who are suffering from stuff, because it sucks. But that's the way that their race looks at being courageous. They look at it in the same vein of like, this is a treatable mental disorder, essentially, which is they're a very alien concept. I mean, one, they're a herbivore, so they're not very aggressive,
which is really cool. I like that. That's actually a really interesting thing, because we never think of aliens as, that type of thing. We're usually like they're omnivorous, or they're, you know what I mean? Or like they Not that they just like, oh, they only eat plants. Like that's never brought up when most people think of aliens. You know?
Yeah, I think I've only ever encountered that once in another sci-fi universe. There was a race of aliens that basically was, they only ate vegetarian style because they were psychic. In the act of killing an animal, like they would feel it.
Oh, they could feel it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really
So they
cool.
were literally forced into being vegetarian. Like they can't kill things. And it's actually
they're all, I can't eat it because I feel
like
it
I
screams.
can't. Yeah, exactly. And so what's crazy is they get attacked by another alien race, and they come to humanity like, "Hey, you guys are good at killing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're real bad at killing stuff, but we have a lot of technology." So
the Kilrathi.
Is that what they're named?
No.
That's in Wing Commander. The tiger people are called the Kilrathi. Because I was like, what is he saying? He sounds like it. And I was like, I know, like to kill the Kilrathi jump cruiser. You know, I was like, I remember that. Like,
so they're called in the Niven universe, they're called the Kzinti. And in fact, in the Star Trek universe, because Niven wrote several. So there's a really weird thing that happens in the Star Trek universe. The Star Trek universe is one of those universes that is like synonymous for the term of canon and retconning. So Star Trek one point split pretty badly into a couple of different universes. And Niven wrote a bunch of stuff that's now considered, it's not Legends, I can't remember. It's like the expanded. Yeah, it's got its own name. It's the expanded Star Trek universe. It's the original. So it's the original series continuity, and then there's the next generation continuity. So in the original series continuity, the Kzinti come in they're one of the races that's introduced as a foil to the Federation. In fact, if you are familiar with any of the old role-playing games that took place in the Star Trek universe or the space combat game, because there was a like Battlefleet Gothic style game for Star Trek. In fact, I have the books over there on my shelf. The Kzinti are one of the races in it, so you can actually have Kzinti ships fighting against Federation ships. Yeah, and they're in that game too, and that's actually how they ended up in Wing Commander. It's how that concept came across, and I actually almost did the Kzin because I think they're fucking cool. There's an entire.
I am so intrigued by this fucking two-headed camel-looking thing. Like,
so
I am obsessed with it right now.
So socially, the notable traits of the puppeteer are their racial and cultural penchants towards cowardice and their tendency to congregate in large herds because they're a herd animal. The cowardice is thought in the puppeteer the cowardice element in puppeteer society is thought to have originated from the puppeteer's instinct for turning their back on danger. However, the trait is thought by many to actually originate from a herd instinct, as when they turn their back, they're able to rear up on their front feet and kick out powerfully with their hind hoof and kill. Generally speaking, like dogs and cats and a bunch of different animals, when they show you their belly, it's they're like submitting to you. But when a gerbil or a hamster shows you it's their belly, it's their aggression because they're getting ready to attack with all their limbs. It kind of has that like feel to it. Like, you know, when an animal turns its back to you, it's showing some form of submission, unless it's a cow or a horse, and that's going to kick the fuck out of you. You're going to die.
Well, unless it's more powerful weapons or its feet. You know, like that's kind of the mentality of it.
Right. Well, and puppeteers do use weapons. They use like blasters and stuff in some of the later ones.
What the fuck? How why are they called puppeteers? Is it because they got hands for mouths? Like, then they can make shadow puppets? Like,
it's because of the way that they manipulate technology is seen a lot. It's seen by humans when they're first encountered as being like a puppeteer manipulating marionettes. So, like, they don't have steering wheels and they don't have like, you know, pitch and yaw sticks and stuff like that. They've got essentially what look like marionette controls for their spaceships.
Wow, dude, these are so weird.
They're such a cool, fucking wacky ass.
What the fuck? Like, dude, it's so weird. I've never. So wait, Pierson's Puppeteer. So what is the book? What's the book that they're in?
So the first book that they're introduced in is the Fleet of Worlds, but they're also in the Ring World. They're in. There's a very famous puppeteer in most of the Ring World books. He's actually, or she's actually, it is actually one of the puppeteers that's suffering from their form of mental illness. So he likes to go out and explore. Their ships are really interesting. Yeah, I know, right? Well, because they don't like to be away from their own kind. So, being out alone with a bunch of humans on the fringe of space, exploring new shit is seen as, oh, you crazy. They're interesting. If you've got an interest in just kind of like wacky, kind of out there science fiction concepts, Larry Niven is a good place to start. He's not most technical, I guess, of science fiction writers. Like you're not going to be wondering what like red shift means and what it means to blue shift through a red shift while bouncing too close to a black hole to get to the mathematical equation of pi so you can see whether or not your mother is your father's sister's brother's ancestor twice removed that you've been at war with for your entire life. And you're like, I don't want to do the math that you just said. He's not that level. He's more the level of like, here's a unique alien concept and how this alien race would work and why it would work. It's kind of a good, in my opinion, it's kind of a good like pre-runner to 40k in a lot of ways. Larry Niven wrote The Integral Trees, which I brought up with the gas torus, the whole idea that there's an entire atmosphere at the Goldilocks zone of a star system that you can live inside of. And there's no planet. It's just an atmosphere wrapped around a star.
Okay.
He's also the guy that the ring world is a big thing that he's known for. Ring world, obviously being that the Halo is a small ring world.
God, dude, this is so fucking weird.
They're really, really cool. It's probably one of my favorite weird ass things. But yeah, they've got
good job. Jesus.
And they've got a little bit of that like old one to them too, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I read a lot of this stuff dealing with the Puppeteers and the Kzinti, but the Puppeteers like fucked around with human genetics when we were still living in trees, and they screwed around with Kzin genetics when the Kzin were still essentially just tigers. They hadn't really formed into men yet, or men beasts yet.
When was this race like created? What book and like what year did this thing come out?
I think the first book they are featured in is The Fleet of Worlds, which was written in it was 2007. That's not the first book they were in.
Dude, what's so crazy to me is that like it's like looking at this thing, it's like you were like, oh yeah, like this is an alien that has super advanced. Like if you just said to someone like, oh, an alien with super advanced technology, you're thinking of like a gray boy.
Yeah.
You don't think of like a horse camel emu crossbreed. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm like looking at this thing and it makes me uncomfortable.
So I think the first time they're seen or introduced that's like widely published is Ringworld, which is 1970. They're in all of the Ringworld books, but they have their own set of books. The first one being The Fleet of Worlds, which was released in 2007. Then there's The Juggler of Worlds, Destroyer of Worlds, and Betrayer of Worlds.
Can you take the picture down? It's making me nervous. Like,
you know, dude, I don't look at it anymore.
Yeah, the more that you talk
is this one better?
The more I'm like,
Tom,
yeah,
Tom,
that's better.
It's okay. You can totally want to put your dick in its mouth.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, dude, it grosses me out. It's got them nub mouth. Like, dude, I wish Mark were here. Mark would die. Mark would just Mark
would talk about getting a footy handy.
Oh, dude, his brain would blow up. Like he wouldn't even be able to function with this thing. I mean, dude. Okay, if you're just listening, go look this thing up, dude. Like the more I look at it, the more I'm confused and upset about it.
So they appear.
To me, it's just awkward looking.
It's so awkward.
They appear in a bunch of different stuff. So they appeared in a Green Lantern novel or a Green Lantern comic that was written by Niven, which is Green Lantern Gathel's Tale. They appear in a couple of panels of the comic. They appear in the Marvel comic Uncanny X-Men number 125 on page 16. If you want to find them. Yep. There's one on the cover variant for the 3rd issue of Star Trek's comic Leonard McCoy, Frontier Doctor.
No.
Nope.
I refuse. I refuse that this is an X-Men. It's in fucking X-Men.
Did you look up the exact episode, the exact comic? They're in. And
it is just as weird looking.
One of them fights against the Yuri and the manga Alien 9. And a puppeteer, as well as several other known universe species, appear in episode 14 of Star Trek, the animated series, The Slaver's Weapon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there a movie that these things are in?
They're in a couple of Star Trek episodes, and
you want to see it move. Don't
Niven stuff is in a couple of the animated Star Trek series stuff, because that's one of the things. The original series continuity continued in the animated series, and that was the big split, because the animated series could do things that the television series couldn't, because obviously animated. So,
oh man, it's so. Oh, I don't know how to feel about this thing, dude. Like,
God fucking damn, weird.
You win,
but at the same time,
you win. If this was a competition, you won.
I wasn't trying to win.
Ew, there's a picture of its mouth thumbs grabbing a pencil, and I hate it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole idea behind all this stuff that we brought up today, and we're definitely going to have to do a part 2, whether or not it's our next episode or whether or not it's another kind of relaxed roundtable that we do in the future. You know, we just brought up a bunch of different aliens that are, we brought up aliens that exist in 40K that are kind of weird and out there. And then we brought up a bunch of aliens not in 40K, and kind of the whole creative writing idea behind it, the whole thing that we're hoping you guys get out of this, and the whole thing that we're hoping you feel and see and think about is the whole idea. I love that. I love that you posted it somewhere that Marky can see it. Is the whole idea that, like, you don't have to be bound to kind of the I'm going to call it the Star Trek Next Generation thing, where like the Romulans look like humans, the Klingons look like everything just became humans with a different brow structure. What were the people? Who are the people with the like nose ridges? Deep Space Nine. There was the really cute one that was like the second in command.
Yeah,
Bashira.
I always like
Bajorans.
Bajorans. Okay.
Yeah, there's like the Cardassians and the Ferengi.
I actually really like the Cardassians.
Cool as shit.
I love the Cardassians. Not the actual
the rules of acquisition.
Star Trek Cardassians.
I always
hate the in-world Cardassians.
I always liked Ferengis, and the more I get into like looking into like Rogue Trader stuff, the more I hear Ferengi shit in my head.
Yeah,
like every time a Rogue Trader, like I'm reading a Rogue Trader thing, I hear Ferengis in my head.
Yeah, I'm like, that's exactly. You fucking would.
The Rogue Traders absolutely operate under the same principles as the Ferengi.
like guys, unbound capitalism.
But guys, I just really want you to see this picture I just posted. It's really gross. Like,
all right,
anybody watching, like, you need to get Patreon just so you can look at these photos, because now, Ryan, you have to post it when I show this. It is disgusting.
Oh my good God.
You see it? Like,
it looks like balls.
This is your alien, bro. It's like these like mouth, like these thumb lips. Like, I can't even explain it, dude. It's got them bubble thumb lips. Like,
this is what happens when you use your camel toe to pick up a pencil.
Why? Why?
Because Tom found it, so he had to share it with us.
Exactly. It's just because it makes me uncomfortable.
Oh my God. So you guys have both seen Jackass 4.5, right?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. So the like making of documentary of Jackass 4.
Oh yes, no, I did actually see that.
So the first challenge they do, where they're they're doing the long jump. The two bigger guys are doing the long jump over the rest of the cast, and they have the camel toe off where Preston pulls his ball. That's what this looks like. It looks like.
I love Kevin's reaction. He's all, why?
Well, guys, listeners. A big reason.
I think that does it.
A big reason that we do this is that we're all very, very passionate about the ideas behind creative writing, and obviously creative writing in the Warhammer 40k universe. But as I brought up at the beginning of this episode, if you look at those ideas of fringe space, you're developing the ideas of like a rogue trader house, something like Kev's doing, or if you're looking at a race like the Tau who work with auxiliaries or something like that. There's these opportunities to remove the aliens that you're conceptualizing for your short stories and for your creative writing from the idea of 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and take it even further than like, oh, well, they've got a tail, I brought up the idea of lizard folk and Tengu at the beginning of this. And, Tengu are bird people and lizard folk are lizard people. And those are, we're not saying don't do that. Do pretty much whatever you want at the end of the day, but don't necessarily feel that you have to be bound to any particular structure. I brought up a 3-legged creature with 2 mouths.
You brought up a fucking monstrosity.
He uses his hands. Tom brought up the Borg, which as much as they look like humans, the concept of what they are is so alien.
And that's the thing.
So like, different from what we picture.
If there weren't the thing about them is that if there weren't humans, it would just be something else. It could be these fucking ball hand mouth things, like the fucking puppeteers.
That would be even worse.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that.
Oh man, I don't have my camera, but I was about to imitate what a Borg.
Are you gonna pick up a pencil with your balls?
A Borg puppeteer. But that's the thing. You can, that the idea of them is actually not, you could use any race. The only reason that the Borg look human is because they're fighting humans, but.
Well, and even with the example of the Thing from the Thing, it's not, you don't know. That could be an interesting story element if you're telling especially if you're telling a one-off story in the 40k universe. Some biological weapon or even some alien species just infects somebody, and that it operates that same way. There's nothing to bind you to, I have to have Tau in my story, or I have to have Eldar in my story. Just go nuts. If you want to go nuts, go nuts.
Dude, the whole, like Kevin bringing up the Thing, the whole aspect of the Thing is that in every movie, right? The first movie, the prequel, the video game, you don't actually know what it is. Because, spoiler, but the spaceship that it like landed on Earth wasn't it. It wasn't what that thing was. It had just had taken over.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah, like that thing had just gotten
that's
into
the
those
other
things.
thing is there's some like back lore that you can learn that like the ship that it crashed onto Earth in didn't make that ship. Right. It was hitching a ride here. On
you
there.
Never see it. It's just
and you never see the whole thing.
Yeah,
you never
just a being.
You never see it not copying. So you never see
it as something else.
Yeah.
And at the risk of what I kind of always do in episodes is one of the things that I wrote into the Startide Expanse I call them the Veln, and the Veln are a hive race. They're a hive mind race, but they're a hive mind race of nano-sized objects, like nano insects. But unlike normal nanos that can just continue to self-replicate, the colonies are bound by a certain size. If the colony grows to a certain size, the hive mind can no longer communicate effectively, and the excess grows into a new colony. So as it expands, it splits into another being. And the way that they operate is they essentially inhabit artificial suits that can look however they want, but since they generally interact with humans, they essentially like inhabit like a spacesuit. So it's a spacesuit that's a controlled environment for the Veln, and the Veln live inside of it essentially, and they operate it like they're a person, like they're a human. That's how they operate in galactic society.
It's sort of like it's sort of like the hunters from Halo.
Yeah, or the gas thing from Hellboy, the guy who turned himself into gas in Hellboy. But the Veln are potentially an artificially constructed super weapon. They're what's left of an artificially constructed super weapon, because there's another thing in the universe of Startide Expanse called nanohusks. And nanohusks are when a entity similar to the Veln decide to inhabit biological tissue against the biological tissue's wishes. And they basically zombify things. So rogue Veln.
That's how the Borg operate.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah.
The Borg they infect by nanobots.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's how they.
That's why they always, when you see them, they reach out and grab somebody.
They
first
touch you.
thing.
Okay.
Is they also have tasers in their hands, but they hit you with the nanobots, so it starts slowly turning you into a Borg right then and there.
Yeah,
so
they're in their fingers, so they like a tube comes out.
Yeah, there's like sometimes it'll zoom in and do a little like clip of it, and they have these like two little tubes that'll come out of their wrist or their fingers, and they'll start injecting people.
So when I wrote Startide Expanse, I wrote Startide Expanse to be a gaming system. So the reason that the Veln operate the way they do is because, like, obviously you're going to have hit point. You're going to have the equivalent of hit points or wounds. So you can't just be an endless nano construct. So I came up with storyline reasons, and the reason I came up with nano husks was this whole idea of, their origin, that they're a weapon. They were a weapon at one point. The Veln are just the ones that evolved and are not bound to what they were. But at some point, some race released what they used to be, and it, killed off. It Grey Gooed entire star systems. They killed entire star systems. So every once in a while, people will find like these super dense, like cubes or balls, like, the size of your fist. And it's just all of these nanites. And if you pick it up, it immediately infests you, and you basically become a zombie. It was my way of making like space zombies.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense. It works.
I think we're at a good wrapping up place. I'd love to have a second episode about this where we actually brainstorm some new fringe races. Maybe we'll come back with a fringe race episode where we've taken a little bit of time and come up with our own alien species for various rogue traders to encounter. And we're going to have to come up with what the unknown region outside of the Carcosan sector is called. Like because it's part of the Halo Stars, but what's it actually called? Because Halo Stars is a very generic term. Thank you very much, guys, for listening.
I'm already brainstorming.
You come up with a name and shoot it to us. If you've got some lore of your own, or you got some scary experiences, maybe some cryptid sightings, UFO sightings, anything like that, go ahead and email them to us at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com or grimdarkgaming@gmail.com. Another way you can get involved in our community and interact with us is by joining our Discord. Not only is that a way that you can get us those stories and those concepts pretty easily as well, but you can interact with the other members of our community, come up and brainstorm some lore ideas. We talk an awful lot about Warhammer 40k there, obviously.
Yep, absolutely. It's probably it's a very active Discord. It's not something that, there's a lot where I've seen that where you jump into and it's like people barely are ever on or anything. There's literally always conversations happening. It's pretty.
I can't keep up, and I check it multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And there's usually
no kidding.
There's usually recently there's been a lot of really cool stuff in our Hobby Progress channel because we've gotten some pretty cool Hit Bash ideas getting tossed around.
Related to that, it blew my mind because I always forget that we also post stuff on Facebook because we're always talking about our Discord. But it's also up on Facebook, and I was scrolling through, and I totally forgot that we were posting our user stuff up there. And I was like, oh, damn, somebody in like one of my just like normal Warhammer groups painted up some really cool shit. I'm like, wait a minute.
That's
know
my
that guy.
Warhammer group.
That's my Warhammer group.
Yeah, we have some pretty amazing
So
painters.
that was pretty good. Good job, guys.
Yeah, we do. We try to do, as Kev mentioned, we do release stuff on other various social media platforms, as well as our website, which we admittedly update very rarely, but we do have a website. So there's definitely a bunch of ways to interact with us. One of the best ways to help us, if you enjoyed our podcast, which we know you did, go ahead and give us a 5-star like and review wherever you get your podcast fix. Apple, definitely a great place to hit us up. You can also find us on Spotify. Spotify, arguably our home base, but we're out there on several different platforms, and I think we're on a bunch of them. Not GitHub. GitHub is not a podcaster, but
get fucking wrecked.
Pocket Cast, we're on Stitcher, we're on several different podcast networks. So wherever you find us, please give us a thumbs up, give us a 5-star review, give us what you can. Also, if YouTube is more your speed and you just happen to run across this episode randomly, we are releasing our backlog episodes over on YouTube. There's a little bit of a video component to it, but if you want the true video experience, the way to get a hold of that is through Patreon. Patreon.com/Under the Hive of Madness.
Best way to watch it. I watch it now all the time. I hate myself.
That's awesome. We release a video podcast version of what you just heard every week, usually just a little bit before the podcast episode itself drops. I try to work in a bunch of visual aids so you can kind of understand what we are talking about. We're trying something new this time. There's a screen sharing feature with one of the pieces of software we use. So I actually use that today to kind of try to pull up some of the images. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, we try to give a little bit more visual experience into everything. Plus, you can see us. You can see us being kind of weird. And I generally speaking, edit those just a little bit less. Another thing that you get access to immediately with the Patreon is you get entered into our painting contest if you are so inclined. We do a painting contest 4 times a year. There's always a different theme. We are finishing up with our fantasy theme right now, but we will be announcing our next theme, which will most likely be centered around something in the horror universe, because our next holiday is Halloween coming on up here. So if you are interested in that,
would be the next.
What's up?
Yeah.
I
guess that would be the next.
Our 4th of July, our celebration of the Golden Aquila is coming up. Whatever we're going to name the 4th of July 40k.
Yeah,
holiday.
I'd say that works.
Yeah. So that's definitely something. We think it's pretty cool. We love seeing everybody's artwork. We also we get together as the hosts and we do a little kind of forged in fire ink master style episode where we look at everybody's paint jobs. We kind of give our impressions and then we vote. And then because we hate ourselves, we are now competing in the fantasy not in the fantasy. We are now competing in the painting contest, and we are pulling some of our past winners and other podcast and community members to vote on us. And Tom, you want to?
Yeah, I was like, I still yet to see that video.
I need to. It should actually be out here within the next week. We are a DIY group, so if you guys like what you're hearing, please support us. It is the only way we can continue doing what we're doing right now.
I thought we were a DIR group.
DIR. Direct.
Do it, Ryan.
Yeah, do it, Ryan.
Yeah, do it, Ryan.
I'm gonna go cry in the shower and then edit.
In fact, if I remember right, earlier you were trying to pull up a picture of the homeworld gas giant of the Vespid, and you pulled up a pretty cool terrain piece that I think you should build into a full board.
Yeah,
do it, Ryan.
I was actually looking for Tom. You might. Bastards. You might remember this,
that's the new one.
Back in 4th edition, there was Vespid terrain. I very distinctly remember there being like floating island Vespid terrain at one point.
Well, I don't think
probably
it was
in a white dwarf.
Yeah, I don't think it was specifically Vespid. I think it's just
you had pulled up
terrain.
a picture of it earlier.
Did I? Yeah, I had found something. It looked like a 3D print. It did, or like a 3D file you could buy and print. It didn't.
Oh, maybe.
But I remember there being something in like a white dwarf. I'm gonna have to dig through my old white dwarfs and see if I can find it again. Because I
mean, a lot of that
thing.
floating terrain came around after Avatar. That was like a big push everybody was doing. Was like, look at my Pandora Mountains.
And that was like what, 2007, 2000. When did
it was a fucking long time ago.
Yeah, we've been waiting on those second, third, and fourth movies, Cameron. I'm just saying.
I don't know.
I know,
I'd
right?
rather them take their time.
Except I hope that they remember that humans eventually have more guns than the enemies have animals.
I think they do.
Yeah, from the trailers I've seen, it looks like they've been pushed out and are fighting from even further away. Well, we'll see.
Yes.
It'll be interesting. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Well, Hivers, we are deep down and twisted in this labyrinthian wasteland of the sump, but we are finding some primo arcanotech. I don't know, Kev, I might have to buy you around next time we're up there. I'm pretty sure this plasma gun I just found is going to outshoot everything I have and not outshoot my face if I fuck up. So,
there's
finds.
only one way to find out.
Whatever you do with that thing, just do it over there.
You don't want to stand next to me when I find out if it overheats and fails?
No.
No. Over there.
Until next time, we have been 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio, broadcasting box wide all across Innsmouth Hive, no matter where we are.
What was that?
Barking spiders on the wall. Just remember, when you're walking down the dark alleyways and you hear that pitter-patter, watch the blood splatter.
I like it. I like that.
Yeah,
four-armed emperor up there on the second, third floor, just chowing down on his last victim.
I figured it was about somebody on their period. Is that not it?
These motherfuckers.